Weiss.
You can look online. Okay, you type in Legend of Zelda, you're going to come up with so much
A million
stuff.
reviews, yeah.
Yeah, and some are going to be long. Most of them aren't going to be professionally written. You're going to slog through a lot of stuff. Well, it occurred to me when I had this idea for books that, you got Leonard Maltin's movie reference guides. You've got, if you want to know...
Roger Ebert, yeah.
If you want to know about movies, rock and roll, politicians, historical figures, there are reference books for all those. Well, there was nothing like that with video games. Digital Press had their guides, but they're a lot different. They have tips and tricks, checklists.
Yeah, I use the DP ones as checklists for more than anything. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's humor. It's different. It's some games just have the title and maybe a box and a year and stuff. So, but this is different. This is more like a movie reference guide where you can thumb through it. It's in alphabetical order, and you can. If you're curious about a game, or if somebody tells you about a game, or you see a game for sale, boom, 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 you can flip right to it and get a good encapsulated, description of exactly what the game is like.
So has anybody come to you and said, thank you because of this review, it made me get this game, or thank you, you saved me from a crappy game?
That happens a lot. So it's fun. It's interesting. Some people will just come up to me, they don't even buy it, and they'll just say, thank you for doing this. I think this is really important to catalog my favorite hobby, to provide a history for it and everything. And they might not even buy a book, but a lot of people that have actually bought the book said, I've really enjoyed just reading this from cover to cover. Some people say that, but then more often than not, people will say, wow, I've really discovered some great games that I'd never really considered before, because just the way you described them and the things you said about them made me consider these games. So I got on eBay or went to the next show I did or whatever, or the next retro gaming store, and I would, so yeah, a lot of people have discovered some really interesting, and that happened to me too as I was working on the books.
You found games that you didn't know about, yeah.
As many games as I'd played, I hadn't played them all. You can't. And so, unless you're spending full time writing books about them. And so, I'd like one example I like to give is Killer Bees for the Odyssey 2. It's pretty obscure. A complete copy will probably cost you in mint. It'll probably cost you about $25 or $30. Kind of one of the harder games. It's not like Power Lords or something like they're quite as hard to find as Turtles, but. It's one of the relatively scarce ones, and the gameplay is kind of hard to pin down unless you've actually played it. It's a real original, unique game, and that was actually the last game I needed to complete my first book, and so I didn't have it. I didn't know anybody that had it. I couldn't borrow it, so I got on eBay and bought a copy, and I waited. I got that in the mail. One of the greatest games I've played from that time, and probably one of my 3 or 4 favorite Odyssey 2 games. Just a brilliant original game that I'm, may not have discovered if I hadn't, done this book series. So I find as I wrote the books that I'm, discovering all these little obscure games and just games I'd never played. So that's a lot of fun. The lame part of the one setback to writing these books is I'm spending so much time with the older systems and some crappy games that I don't have that much time to play my 360. That's probably one drawback. Is I'd love to sit down and I've got the BioShock and both BioShock games in that collector's package, and I'm playing the first one, but okay, I've got to take a break to go play some crappy Super Nintendo game so I can get some work done today.
Yeah, I got to play Superman on the N64. Right. Oh shit!
Right, exactly. So that's one drawback, but that's a rich man's problem,
Yeah, that's
what
true.
Game to play, it's no complaints here. It's a great. I've met a lot of fun and cool people. This book series, I've made a lot of new friends through this. Just because I set up a lot of shows to help promote the books, so it's been a very positive experience.
All right. Well, in closing, what words of advice can you give to aspiring authors who want to get into the same line of work?
Well, writing for a living is extremely difficult. If you want to do it for an actual living, you have to write for a newspaper or strike or because it's such so you can get published so regularly and get paid frequently.
Or strike a gold mine like J.K. Rowling's or something.
Yeah, exactly. You have to write a bestseller. You either have to hit on a hot topic, a nonfiction book that's just booming, that just happens to be a real contemporary
hot button
topic.
issue.
Yeah, hot button issue. Or you have to strike gold and write a bestseller, and who can just know they're going to do that? Stephen King, when he wrote Carrie, he wasn't thinking he was going to get a $400,000 advance on the paperback from a mainstream publisher. He was hoping, he could feed his family the next day. So you don't know about that. But there are ways to make a living as a freelance writer, but it's hard. It's hard work. If you want to do writing, I mean, like I said, newspapers, magazines. If you network enough, if you do enough market research, if you're good enough, if you write enough, you can find a way to make a living writing. It's just hard. If you want to do it as a sideline thing, that's doable. That's more doable. I mean, that's if you have a real job, a so-called real job, and then you want to write on the weekends or at night or on your days off or whatever. That's a more feasible way to be a writer. And if you want to write in any capacity, it's the old cliche. It's true. You just write. You have to put up with a lot of rejection. Most of the stuff you write initially is going to get rejected. I don't necessarily recommend writing for free, like to submit things, unless it's something you're really passionate about. You just want to support some particular niche thing. Like sometimes I'll contribute things to the occasional video game fanzine just to kind of help them out or whatever. I don't recommend doing a ton of free writing, as far as,
because it's devaluing yourself. You gotta know what you're worth.
Yeah, you wanna put yourself out there. You wanna be, but you do want to write enough to hone your skills. So just keep writing, and if you want to keep a diary, or if you want to write more, but you're not necessarily getting published all the time, write something. Keep a blog, write your memoirs, whatever. Just keep writing, keep reading, research, do tons of market research. Market research is extremely important. If you want to write for a particular newspaper or magazine, you definitely want to read at least two or three issues of that. If you want to market a book to a particular publisher, you want to go to the bookstore and look and see what type of stuff they publish, or look online or whatever.
Get to know your target.
Yeah, no matter how good of a writer you are, inappropriate material will never, ever, ever be published. I mean, you could write the next To Kill a Mockingbird, but if it's not aimed at the right market, the right publisher, it's not going to get published. I mean, you have to know who you're submitting to. Some people think, well, it's a science fiction magazine, so I can write a science fiction thing. No, you need to know.
You need to know what kind of science fiction they want. Yeah, the style.
Yeah. So that would market research, and just sit down at the computer every single day to do it. Just as Stephen King says, flail away at the goddamn thing. It's a lot of work.
All right. Well, one last time for our viewers right now, plug where they can get the book, Amazon, and everything else.
I would recommend going through Amazon, Amazon.com, of course. Just type in classic home video games.
Just like it says on the shirt.
Yeah, and if you do that, you'll find my books, and I have my author page, and you can get all the books through there. If you want to check out some more of my writing, BrettWeissWords.com. You can find my blog, and so the reviews on Amazon are most 90-something% positive. There's a couple that it wasn't necessarily a reference guide. I don't want a book that has opinions in a reference guide. I've had that. There have been a couple of people that the books maybe not have been what they were looking for. But just anecdotally, like the people I meet at conventions or something, the people that have responded to me, that have emailed, I've never had any buyer's remorse on these books. They're very well received, and I've had so many people come back to me, at these shows and stuff. Well, I got your first book on Amazon. Wow, it's cool you're here. I want the next two, and so it's hard to get the word out on this kind of thing. It's a small market press, it's a small publisher, it's a niche market item, so it's kind of hard to get the word out. So, but the people that do discover the books tend to like them a lot. So.
Well, hopefully this video will get the word out to a few more people then.
Awesome. I appreciate it.